everyone, this is Denise with Liquid Color, and the color mixing series is finally back to wrap up with our final episodes. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to mix browns, and next week we're going to be taking a look at blacks and grays. Now these two videos will not be in the same format as the prior 3 videos on the secondary colors. That's where we did the big 5x5 grids with 5 swatches in each square. Now the reason that we're not going to use the grids is that browns are generally created using opposite or complementary colors. While mixing blues and orange tones will generally result in a grayish color that we'll explore next week, the yellow and purple combinations make beautiful browns, and the red and the light greens are also pretty great. However, if I were to make a chart with all 4 of these types of colors, we'd have some pretty pointless mixtures like yellow and green together and red and purple together, which is not what we're looking for. So instead, I'm first going to show you some of my tube mixed browns like I have in previous videos, and then we're going to move on to actually mixing some of my own favorite brown combinations on some little swatch cards. Alright, so first here I'm just going to be showing you the colors that I have in my collection. Starting with raw sienna, burnt sienna, EF red iron oxide, burnt umber, and transparent brown oxide, all by Daniel Smith. Then we've got Schmincke's Mars brown, transparent sienna, sepia brown, Mission Gold's burnt umber, Van Dyke brown, red brown, M. Graham's transparent red iron oxide, and Core's raw umber natural. Now, you might be thinking, this is a lot of browns, and you would absolutely be correct. If you've seen any of my other videos, including like my top 12 palette picks, I love browns because I paint so many animals, and they're very, very useful for me. So I find them pretty indispensable on my palette as being pre-made. But this video today, we are going to be taking a look at how we could possibly mix some of these on our own so that you don't have to have 27 shades of brown in your palette. Alright, so before we start mixing, let's go ahead and take a look at this fantastic color wheel by Bruce McAvoy, who did give me permission to use it in this video. This wonderful color wheel depicts many common colors as they would lie on an actual color wheel. One thing that you may notice is that yellow and red are really close to each other on this wheel compared to how far away the blue is from the two. This is a nice visual representation that suggests that a cooler red like magenta is more useful for a primary triad where we're trying to get some equally spaced colors to use for all of our mixing. The second thing that you might notice is that there are actually 4 key areas on this chart rather than 3. There appears to be quadrants for yellow, red, blue, and green. If you recall from our color mixing purple video where we talked about how humans see in red, green, and blue light waves, it is really intriguing that green has its own section that's really dominant here on this color wheel. Alright, so all of that aside, the main reason that we're looking at this chart for today's video is that we're looking for opposite colors, and particularly the ones that contain light hues like yellow or yellow-green. Why is that? Well, simply put, the light colors like yellow will never be dark enough to mix blacks on their own. Instead, they'll make a color that results in some shade of brown. So if we look where yellow is, across from it is cool purple. Or if we look at the light greens and mix it with the cool reds or the really, really warm purples, those theoretically would give us a brown color. In application, this actually doesn't always work perfectly, and Bruce has some really great resources on handprint.com about visual complements versus mixing complements. I'll be sure to put a link in the description below so you can check that out, but for now, let's just go ahead and play around with some of the colors that I have. So now we're going to start off by mixing that green gold that I mentioned before and carmine. These are both by Daniel Smith, and the green gold is a very, very yellow leaning green. And the resulting color is going to mix something that is a tiny bit darker than a raw sienna, but definitely not dark enough to be a burnt sienna. It's a nice, rich, transparent brown. Next we have Hansa Yellow Deep and Dioxin Violet. Now this Hansa Yellow Deep is a really, really warm yellow, and then we've also got the nice, deep, cool Dioxin Violet, and the resulting color is going to be a nice, deep, almost like a burnt umber color if we add enough purple to it. If you added more yellow, it would be closer to a burnt sienna. From here, we're going to take that same Hansa Yellow Deep and mix it with a Perylene Violet, which is a dark violet, but it's a lot warmer than the Dioxin Violet. And the resulting color is actually probably my favorite in the entire video today. And it's a nice deep mahogany brown that I am just in love with and cannot wait to use in a painting. The next one, we're going to kind of veer away from the yellows a little bit closer to the browns with a Quinacridone Burnt Orange and a Dioxin Violet. Sorry, it's off camera here. It'll get moved up in just a second. And the resulting color is going to be another rich warm brown. Surprise, surprise, I love rich warm browns. I promise I will make some other variations for you in just a moment. I did also want to show you that you don't need to be afraid to mix what other natural tones you already have on your palette to get different tones. So here I've got a Quinacridone Burnt Orange, which is obviously close to a brown on the oranger side, and then I'm also going to take the Raw Sienna to kind of knock back that orange a touch, and the resulting color is going to be a nice, like a light sienna. And then now we're going to move on to our 3 color mixtures. So you don't have to be afraid to use more than 2 colors to get the desired color that you would like. Here I have a Hansa Yellow Deep again, the Carmine once again, and then we're going to add a new color to the mix, which is Perylene Green, which is a really, really dark forest green. Now if you mix just the Carmine and Perylene Green on their own, they'll create an almost black color, so by adding the yellow it's going to lighten it up into a brown. I'm going to do 3 variations of this so you can see what happens if in the first one we added more red, the second one is more yellow, and the third one is more green, so you get these different variations of the same type of mixture. We're going to do one more triad using Red Violet, Burnt Umber, and Neutral Tint. Now I know that I'm using a brown in this mixture to begin with, but I recently found out about this color combination and really wanted to share it with you because it's absolutely gorgeous. There's a color called Raw Umber Violet that I don't actually have a tube of, but have seen online, and I have like the Daniel Smith dot card, and it makes these really deep, beautiful, moody, you know, kind of magenta-ish browns, and they're perfect for landscapes and mountains and things like that. So here again we've got the one with the more red violet first, more burnt sienna second, and more of the neutral tint third. And I'm also really excited to use this mixture in more paintings as well. Here they all are laid out for you so that you can go ahead and see them next to each other. The lightest ones are towards the bottom, and then we move up to the darker ones on top. So you can see that even if you don't have neutral tones on your palette, if you have some of these other colors, and I tried to limit them to as few as possible so I wasn't throwing out too much information that was too confusing, then you could go ahead and take these colors and move forward with your palette. I did really try and think about, like, okay, if I had to think outside the box and I wasn't allowed any of my natural tone colors, what colors would I recommend for you to have on your palette? What I think I'd come up with is that if you don't want to have any browns on your palette and you want to mix them, I would definitely recommend Hansa Yellow Deep and either the Dioxin Violet or the Perylene Violet, depending on which mixture you like better. If you wanted some of those lighter, kind of orangier tones, the green gold is really useful, but if you're not going to use that color otherwise, it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep it on your palette. Okay, and I know I said no natural colors, but if you have a burnt umber or a raw umber on your palette, and you can also have a red violet spot, the 2 of these together to have the flexibility to move them warmer and cooler in your paintings, I think is really, really wonderful. And then having the neutral tint on your palette, you would be able to deepen and darken any of these brown colors. You could literally add it to any of them across the board to make deeper, darker versions of whatever mixture. So I guess those are the colors I would recommend. I would say Hansa Yellow Deep, one of the purples, and then Red Violet, Burnt Umber, and Neutral Tint. And if you want to kind of deviate from that, you're obviously more than welcome to, and I would love to hear what your favorite mixtures for browns are in the comments below, so be sure to let me know. Finally, I wanted to have this little clip for you to kind of look at, and I'm going to be comparing all of my little swatches to the tube colors that I already have here, trying to find, what's kind of closest to that raw Umber Violet mixture, what's closest to the Hansa Deep Carmine Perylene Green mixture, what's closest to these other color combinations that I've come up with, and I will go ahead and let you watch out the rest of the video. While you are watching that, I want to say thank you so much for your likes, comments, and subscribes, and a special thanks to all of my patrons, because today, as of like a half an hour or an hour before recording the audio for this footage, we reached our first milestone. So my first goal unlocked that we will now have monthly community challenges. So I'll set a challenge and a theme every month, starting with this month. I'll put one up tonight that the community can participate in, can post pictures of, can get feedback on if they would like to. I will definitely be an active member of that, and I can't wait to see what you all come up with. And then also it unlocks blog posts for all of my color spotlight videos that I did prior to this series. So all of the color spotlights I've already done, I will be making into blog posts for every one of my patrons, and I really look forward to sharing those with you. So I want to thank you guys all so much for your support. I couldn't do this without you. I really, really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.